So in today's session, we will continue the introduction part of toxicology. Its general consideration, right? So discuss about some household poisons. There are some agricultural poisons or specific chemical poisons. Now, the qualities of poison. The poison can be used for suicidal purpose or homicidal purpose. Homicide is killing someone, right? And suicidal is killing oneself. This is the difference, that homicidal is to kill someone else and suicidal is killing oneself or himself, right? So what a quality should be possessed by a poison which can be used as homicidal poison, or which we can say that it is a ideal homicidal poison. So the ideal homicidal poison should be cheap, right? Easily available, colorless, odorless and tasteless, capable of being administered either in food, drinks or medicine without producing any obvious changes. To prevent suspicion, highly toxic, sign and symptoms should be resemble a natural disease, or the serious effects should be delayed sufficiently long for the accused of escape suspicion. There should not be any antibiotic or antidote. There should be no postmortem changes. Should not be detected by chemical test or other methods, and must be rapidly destroyed or made undetectable in the body. So basically, ideal means the perfect one, which is suitable, which is always suitable. So what can be ideal suicidal or homicidal poison can be that first it should be cheap. It should not create a burden on the pocket of the murderer, right? It should be cheap. Second, easily available. The thing that can be used as a poison should be easily available. It should have easy access to everyone so that one can purchase it. Third thing is colorless, odorless and tasteless. It should be colorless. Why? If it will give any color, one can suspect that it is there is something mixed. So the purpose will not be fulfilled. It should be odorless. It should not have a pungent odor or a specific odor, because if the smell, if it has a smell, right? If it has an odor, then one can be get aware of that something is mixed, something is there is something which is anyone is trying to give anyone, any person, right? So it should be odorless. It should be tasteless. It shouldn't have any specific taste. If it has a specific taste, then again it will create a suspicion that something is mixed. So the person to whom it is given may get aware of it. Capable of being administered either in food, drink or medicine without producing any obvious changes to prevent suspicion. So it should be colorless, odorless, tasteless, and it should be easily mixable. It can be mixed with the food, can be with any drink or with any medicine, and it should not produce any changes in which it is mixed. If a poison is mixed in water and it produces yellow color, pink color, whitish color, one will take it? No. There will be suspicion that something is mixed. Okay? So it should be easily mixable. It should not be easily observable that something is mixed or not. It shouldn't be. Next, it should be highly toxic. If a poison is weak, then the motto of the murderer will be not fulfilled. The purpose is to kill someone, and to kill someone it should be toxic. A weak poison can give the time to say the victim. So it should be highly toxic. Signs and symptoms should resemble a natural disease, or the serious ill effects should be delayed sufficiently long for the accused to escape suspicion. So when the poison is administered, the sign or symptoms which it should produce should resemble to a natural disease. Okay? It shouldn't be like this, that the symptoms which are produced are due to poison. Otherwise, the person who has given the poison will be caught. Right? So it should be resembling with any natural disease, so no one can produce its suspicion on the accused or the murderer. And second thing, it should give sufficient time to escape. It should be highly toxic, but it should not be that much rapid that it causes death as soon as it is taken. If a person gave a poison to someone and he died immediately, suspicion will be drawn on the person who was with him, right? So it should give some time that the person or the accused or the murderer who is giving the poison can escape, and the symptoms should resemble with natural disease. Just like, for example, in arsenic poisoning, the symptom resembles to cholera, right? There should not be any antidote. If an antidote is present, then the effect of the poisoning can be antidoted, right? So ideal poison is one who doesn't have any antidote, whose effect cannot be nullified or cannot be removed. There should be no postmortem changes. Why there should be no postmortem changes? If the changes are produced in the postmortem, then an investigation can lead for the poisoning. If a particular postmortem changes related to any poison are present, then the investigation can be started on the behalf of that finding. So, in case of ideal homicidal poisoning, there should be no changes in the postmortem, so that no suspicion can be raised. Should not be detected by chemical test or other method. Again, for the same reason, that it should not be detected chemically or by any other scientific methods, because if the poison can be detected in the body, then again there will be question of murder, and again investigation can be there. So to avoid this, the ideal homicidal poison should not be detected or should be undetectable. Must be rapidly destroyed or made undetectable in the body. So the ideal homicidal poison either should be destroyed immediately or as soon as possible, or it should be undetectable. So this one was about ideal homicidal poison. Now ideal suicidal poison. So the poison that one can take to kill himself, what the quality should he possess to be a ideal suicidal poison? First, it should be again cheap, okay, easily available, highly toxic, tasteless or of pleasant taste, capable of being easily taken in food or drink, and capable of producing painless death. So first thing, it should be cheap, so one can buy it easily, okay. If it is costly or it is highly priced, it may be difficult for someone to purchase it, to buy it, so it should be cheap. It should be easily available. Again, if its availability is not easy, then one can buy it? No, one can't buy if its availability is not easy. So it should be easily available. Next, it should be highly toxic. What's the reason of being highly toxic in case of suicidal poison? If it is a weak toxic, then it will produce painful death. Okay, it will take more time to kill, so more symptoms will produce, more painful will be the situation. So it should be highly toxic. It should be tasteless or of pleasant taste. Can one take a thing which has a very pungent or very spicy or very bitter taste? Or if it is very acidic taste, one can take it? No. So it should be either tasteless, so can be easily taken, or it should have a pleasant taste which is easily to be taken. Capable of being easily taken in food and drink. So the poison should either be tasteless or having pleasant taste, which can be mixed easily with a food or drink, so one can take it easily. Capable of producing painless death. The most important point in the case of suicidal poison, no one wants a painful death. Okay, even in the case of normal death, no one wants that the death should be painful. Everyone wants a painless death. So same with the suicidal case, the person who is committing suicide also wants a painless death. So the poison should be highly toxic, it should have a good taste, or it should be tasteless, it should be easily mixable with food, and capable of producing painless death. So opium and barbiturates satisfy several of the above criteria. Organophosphorus compounds and andrine are commonly used as suicidal poison. So in case of opium and barbiturates, usually they produce painless death, they are easy to take, right? But in case of organophosphorus compound and andrine, it is cheap, it is easily available. Basically these are agricultural poisons, or one of the categories household poisons like insecticides, pesticides. Organophosphorus and andrine are pesticides. So they are easily available, they are cheap, so they are one of the most common poisons which are used for suicide. Now the types of poison. A poison can be stupefying poison, right? Like Datura and Cannabis indica. Stupefying poisons are those poisons which stupefy or alters the mental or the consciousness level of a person for a time being. They just alters the consciousness level. So basically these poisons are used by thieves, right? Or a person who is committing rape uses such type of poisons. It is mixed in the tea or biscuit and is given in bus, train, just to loot the passenger. Second is abortive drugs like calotropis and oleanders. These drugs or poisons are used to produce abortion. Accidental poisons like household poison. Accidental poisons are those poisons which are taken by mistake or in an accident. Some phenyl is filled in a bottle and it is placed in kitchen. A child can take it as a mistake of milk and can drink it, right? So this is a accidental poisoning, or anything resembling to any food can be taken by any person. It is an accidental poisoning. Rare poisons are bacteria and insulin. cattle poisons. Basically, these are used to kill the cattle, just like Abrus pectorius, oleanders, calotropis, aconite, arsenic, and organophosphorus. So these are the poisons which are used to kill animals. Usually in villages, if one wants to take a revenge with any person who is residing in the same village, he is used to feed this poison to the animals belonging to the enemy. Okay, so this is a method of taking revenge. Aero poisons like Abrus pectorius, proton oil, calotropis, aconite, strychnine, culane, and snake venom. Aero poison, as the name suggests, the arrow is dipped in these poisons to kill the animal or any person. Now the classification of poisons. According to the mode of action, poisons are classified as corrosive poison, irritant poison, neurotic poison, cardiac, asphyxiant, and miscellaneous. This cardiac and asphyxiant is two different categories, right? So one is corrosive poison, irritant poison, third one is neurotics, fourth one is cardiac, fifth one is asphyxiant, and sixth one is miscellaneous. So now first the corrosive poisons. A corrosive poison is simply a highly active irritant and not only produces inflammation but also actual ulceration of the tissues. This group consists of strong acids and strong alkalis. So corrosive poisons are those substances which not only produces irritation or inflammation, right? They usually corrodes or burns the tissue. And what are the including categories? Mineral acids, strong alkalis, strong acids like sulfuric acid, carbonic acid, hydrochloric acid or HCl, nitric acid or HNO3, or caustic alkalis like sodium hypochlorite. Vegetable acids, for example, hydrocyanic acid. Now the irritants. Irritants poison produces symptoms of pain in abdomen, vomiting, and purging. The postmortem appearances are usually evident to the naked eye and shows redness or ulceration of the gastrointestinal tract. This group consists of inorganic, organic, and mechanical substances. As the name suggests, irritants. What they do? They just irritate, right? They produces irritation that causes inflammation. So irritant poisons produces pain in abdomen, vomiting, and purging. These three symptoms are due to the irritation of gastrointestinal tract. When they are ingested or swallowed, as soon as they reaches in the gastrointestinal tract or the stomach, they produces irritation in the stomach, and this irritation causes pain in abdomen, vomiting, and purging. Purging is continuous desire to vomit. Okay? And oneself or the person tried to vomit. There is a persistent desire to vomit with attempt to vomit, right? It is something different from nausea, where there is just feeling of vomiting, that one has a feeling to vomit out, but in purging one try to get vomit out. The postmortem appearances are usually evident as it produces irritation, so there will be edema, there will be congestion, there will be ulceration or bleeding, so it will be easily visible through naked eye and show redness or ulceration of the gastrointestinal tract. What are included in this group? Usually inorganic, organic and mechanical substances. Inorganic poisons like arsenic, mercury, lead. Organic poisons like animal, insect poisons, snake venom, right? Or the organic like vegetables belonging to vegetable kingdom like Apis pectorius, Calotropis, oleander, and mechanical substances like powdered glass, any metal. Organic. The organic subgroup consists of organic irritant poisons. The organic subgroup consists of vegetable and animal poisons. The vegetable poison includes castor oil seeds, croton oil, Apis pectorius, colocin, ergot, capsicum, Semicarpus, anacardium, Calotropis, and Plumbago rosea and Plumbago zelenica. The animal poison includes cantharids, snakes, scorpions, spiders, and poisonous insects. Mechanical irritant poison includes coarsely powdered glasses, chopped hairs, dried sponge, and diamond dust. Now the cerebral or neurotic poisons. The poison acting on the cerebrum may have a somniferous, inebriant, or deliriant effect. The somniferous poisons include opioids. The inebriant ones include alcohol, anesthetics and sedatives and hypnotic fuels and agrochemical compounds, while the deliriant one includes datura, belladonna, pyrosine, and cannabis indica. Basically, cerebral or neurotic poisons affect the central nervous system, right? So they affect the cerebrum, where they produce either somniferous effect, inebriant effect, or delirium effect. Somniferous poisons includes opioids. Inebriant includes alcohol, ethyl alcohol and methyl alcohol, anesthetics, sedatives, agrochemical compounds, like petroleum, fuels like petroleum, and deliriant one includes datura, belladonna, pyrosine, and cannabis indica. Spinal poison of the same category, neurotic poison, it includes the poison that acts on spinal cord, like nux vomica, and gelsemium, not alkaloids. Nux vomica and its alkaloids, right? Alkaloids are basically active chemical compounds present in any substance, right? So the alkaloids of nux vomica, they produce spinal poisoning. Like strychnine is one of the alkaloid, right? So the nux vomica and its alkaloids and gelsemium are the poison that belongs to the group of spinal poisons. Peripheral poisons or the poisons that acts on peripheral nervous system includes curare and conium. Cardiac poisons, these are the poisons which acts on heart or cardiovascular system, right? They include digitalis, oleander, aconite, and nicotine. Asphyxiant poisons, these are the poisons acting on the lungs. Basically, asphyxiant poisons are those poisons which produces asphyxia. Asphyxia is a condition where one is suffocated state, like one is having trouble in breathing. So the poisons acting on the lungs and includes irrespirable gases like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, fever gas, and some more gases. In this winter season, or in winter seasons, you have heard of a news that a person ignite a giti in the room and get and found dead in the morning. रात को चूल्हा या अंगीठी जलाई and he found dead in the morning. That is due to carbon monoxide poison. Right? What happens there? Person closes the room, so there is no ventilation. There is no evacuation of these poisonous gases which are produced due to this heat or due to this fire, and the concentration level of oxygen reduces and these poisonous gases increases. And as this concentration of these poisonous gases along with the environment increases in the body of the person, it causes death. Similar with sewer gases. A municipal employee goes into sewerage line and he died there. News सुनिए, like municipal workers went to the sewage line and they died or they get unconscious due to the poisonous gases. This is due to the sewer gases. And some wall gases, miscellaneous, basically it includes those poisons which are not present in above categories. Miscellaneous is of different varieties, of different kinds. So the poisons which are not included in above categories, they are included in this miscellaneous category. As the name suggests, poison having widely different pharmacological action are put together in this group. It includes analgesics and antibiotics, antihistaminics, tranquilizers, antidepressants, stimulants, hallucinogens, street drugs and designer drugs. Now the route of administration. What are the different routes through which poisons are administered in the body? One is enteral route by mouth or rectum or to be absorbed across the enteral mucous membrane. So these are the poisons which are taken through mouth and they go into the gastrointestinal tract and are absorbed in the GIT. Parenteral route by injection either intradermal, subcutaneous, intramuscular, intravenous, intraarterial, intraperitoneal, intrathecal or into the bone marrow. Right? Parenteral route is direct into the body flow. So it may be IV, intravenous or intramuscular or intraperitoneal, right? Or directly into the bone marrow. Third one is by inhalation through the air passages. So the gaseous poisons or asphyxiant poisons which are absorbed, which are taken through respiration by external application on the wound. If the skin is broken and any poison is applied on that wounded part, it gets absorbed in the body. Unbroken skin, wounded skin was broken. There was a breakage in the skin continuity, right? The skin was not continuous. In unbroken skin, the skin is continuous and the poison is applied on the skin, just like it is mixed in lotion and applied on the body. Right? It is applied on unbroken skin. Introduction into natural orifices such as rectum, vagina, urethra, nose, eyes, etc. So the poison can directly insert into the natural orifices, just like rectum, vagina, uterus, right? So this is about the route of administration of poison.